It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. Wait
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike De Jesus, founder and CEO of Reaching Higher Ed, and this is our third podcast. I am super excited because I have a very special guest who we actually go way back. Now, it's been a while since we've been in contact, but my guest today, Miss Jasmine Briggs-Rogers, is a person who I actually went to high school with. So it's very cool during this virtual season, right? It's kind of like a season, right? Everybody's going virtual now. That you get to connect with people who you may not be able to do this in person. So this is cool. I'm super excited about this. And Jasmine works in higher ed. She is the CEO of Creatively Inspired Career Coaching. And she supports clients with all aspects of career planning and management, from resume and LinkedIn profile writing, personal and social branding, job searching, and promotional strategies. And she's also director of career services at Berkeley College in New York City. Jasmine, I am so glad that you agreed to do this. I know it took us some time to kind of coordinate, but I'm glad we finally got to get this going. I think people often don't think about, when they think about issues of equity and access in education, right? We kind of think about, how do we get students to college? What's the issues of equity access while students are in college? But we often don't talk about what happens when students leave college, or how do we get them to the next step, right? You're in college and hopefully the next step is to get a career, but that's what you do. You are sort of like a career coach guru. And so I'm like, I have to have Jasmine on my show to ask her the deep questions on getting students to that next step after college. So thank you, Jasmine, for joining me here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jasmine, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be on this podcast. So I am a career coach and resume writer. I'm from New York, and I actually didn't start in this field. I often like to say that I'm a career transitioner because my lifelong dream was actually to be an actor. I went to college for theater, and then I got out of college, and I was like, what am I going to do for work? So I started temping with all these different temp agencies. And one day I kind of had an epiphany, like, I can do this. So I kind of transitioned into recruitment. And once I decided I wanted to go back to school and I wanted to help people, it was just such a natural transition for me to go from recruitment to workforce development, supporting people in nonprofits with finding employment, and then eventually career services in higher ed. I actually started at Berkeley as a career counselor for the fashion and marketing programs. And then eventually I was assistant director for the career services on New York City and Brooklyn campus. And now I'm the director of career services for the New York City campus. So it's really wonderful to be able to support students in their career journey, and then once they graduate, as well as support clients no matter where they are in their journey with career planning and creating good career management techniques, because I believe that we are all the CEOs of our own career.
Oh, I love that. The CEOs of our own career. That's golden right there. That's a golden nugget. Whoever's listening, write that down. I think that's fascinating. And actually, if you don't mind, I just want to backtrack in your story, because I think it's really important, particularly for young folks who are in college right now, right? Like, what you wanted to do originally for your career is sort of a different path than what you're doing now. And I think that is so important, because oftentimes, while, like, I just think about myself, like being in school, like I started off as a computer science major, and I thought I was going to work for IBM or something in programming. And 4 years into college, I said, I loved computers. I'm still a computer nerd. I love doing all that stuff, all these computer tinkering and things. Actually, if I pan my camera around here, you'll see all the computer parts and junk I got around here, but we're not going to do that. But I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do for a career, right? It was great as a hobby, but not as a career. And like yourself, I fell into a passion of wanting to help people. So, like, tell us a little bit more about that moment, that epiphany that you had. Like, okay, I wanted to be an actress, but this moment and season is shifting in your life. Like just like flesh that out a little bit more for us.
Sure. So yeah, I came back to New York City. I went to school in DC and I was auditioning and waiting tables and working in recruitment. And I kind of had what I like to call my dark night of the soul, where everyone's around me, all my friends were going back to law school, right? I think I was about 25, 26, and that was the big thing at the time. And I knew I didn't want to do that. So I had to really kind of go on a journey to figure out what it was that I wanted to do, and that led me to getting my master's degree in transpersonal psychology. And in that kind of 2-year program of my master's degree, I really went on a spiritual journey to figure out who I was and what I loved. And I was a creative person, and so I realized that as long as I was being creative, writing, painting, it didn't necessarily have to be theater. And so that was kind of a big epiphany for me. I really looked at the reasons behind why I wanted to be an actor. And I had to be real with myself and say some of that was fame, right? Some of that was like wanting the world to recognize me and love me so that I could love myself. And once I started to love myself, I didn't really need that from the world. I was in a mindset of what could I give as opposed to what could I receive, if in a way, right? And that's when I knew I kind of wanted to help people. And even then, I didn't know what that meant, right? So it went through like a job search and volunteering to really figure out that this industry called workforce development even existed. And I didn't even know, and that's like working with back to work programs and people who may have had histories of incarceration. So that's where I started. And it was really rewarding. I didn't love every bit of it, right? You can get burnt out, but I believe it was part of my journey because it's what led me to higher education. And it's also what led me to resume writing, because I was not making a whole lot in these nonprofits. So I had to, what is my side hustle? And I started writing resumes through a service. And then once I transitioned into higher ed, I kind of transitioned my whole life coaching practice, because when I got my master's degree, I'd also gotten a life coaching certification. So I transitioned that whole practice to focus on career coaching, because I think I just found a new love for it once I started working with students.
That's awesome. That's fascinating. And I love how you emphasize like your career path was this spiritual personal journey, right? It was almost this finding of self, and you're still tapping into your creative side, which is fascinating. Like, I think sometimes we put ourselves in a box, right? This is what we're meant to do, but don't think about how those talents can be shaped and morphed into different areas, and oftentimes into places we don't even think about, right? Like, I would never have thought, actor, actress, and career coach, CEO, director of career services. Like, it just seems like here, but you're still tapping into that creative side, and you're helping students tap into that creative side as well, right? Because resume writing, you have to be creative, right?
Yeah. My minor is in creative writing, actually, and I kind of did a focus on playwriting and fiction. And sometimes I read back, will read a resume that I wrote, and I'm like, I am a good writer. That education really paid off. But yeah, definitely. And even the acting, right? I'll do presentations and workshops for students, and I'm like, I don't need a mic. I learned how to speak to the back of the audience room like a long time ago. And so it's just those skills that kind of, you don't know why you're learning them or why you're developing, but how they just can support you in so many different aspects of your life. Even just being in theater has supported me in being rejected, and being rejected is part of the job search and part of building a business. So flexing that I can take rejection and I can accept and kind of move with it view has developed me as a professional.
Now that's fascinating to hear. And I'm just thinking like, yeah, if I am coaching people how to sit in an interview, right? Those acting skills can come in quite handy, I would think, right? Or if I'm writing a resume, those creative writing skills. So can you touch on that? Like how has the what they call in the career services world transferable skills? How's those transferable skills, how are you able to market those transferable skills into what you do now, and how are you helping students do that?
So yeah, I think it's about telling your story and getting students to really tap into what's their story. So how have they come to want to be in this career, right? What are those experiences that they have in high school and college and part-time jobs that really show how they can kind of flex their muscle in a different career. And so I just tell my story and I'm pretty open with my story. And I think that being able to tell our story, especially now online, right? In networking and then being able to tell it in LinkedIn and in social media and in our digital presence is really important to show those transferable skills and what makes us different.
And so, yeah, you talked about the being online now. Like everything is online, everything is virtual. Schools are virtual, which
Mhm.
is totally different for not just students, but um, you know, professors and staff. And so how have you found this transition, just being able to connect with your students, offer your services virtually, and then allow them to gain the skills to kind of go into this virtual world? Because I would imagine, if they're going to interviews, it's going to be something like this, right? It's a Zoom or Teams or whatever other platform that people are using now. So what advice do you have for students out there and that are doing this virtual career search online, and how are you with your practice, um, you know, been able to transition?
Sure. So with my practice, I was always virtual. We were always having phone calls or videos. So I think it was easy for me to transition to working with students the same way. I think on the student side, though, there has been fear and trepidation about
Mm.
being virtual, right? And I think that is more than anything what can be blocking students from interviewing well and connecting, right? So I also think it is an issue of access too, because luckily I have good enough internet and lighting, and I can put up backgrounds that make me look professional, right? Whereas if I am trying to interview in a small apartment with a bunch of other people, finding that quiet space may not be as easy. But I think
Hmm.
that um, being real with people too is important because everyone is kind of in this together. But knowing like as much as possible, finding that quiet space, taking a look at your background before you're interviewing, looking at your lighting, because I think it's still you can still connect with people online. And I think the last 9, 10 months have definitely taught me that all the Zoom networking events I've been to. And it even reminds me that we were all connecting online even before this. We just didn't, I guess we didn't pay as much attention. We didn't even realize,
Right.
thinking about all the people just that I have networked with on LinkedIn before this even started.
Right, absolutely. No, that's super important points. So, I'm just thinking, I'm a student and maybe I don't have the resources, I don't have the fancy lights and the fancy camera, but, I'm a senior and I'm starting to do interviews and I'm having anxiety because, you know, um, I'm now home and maybe, little sister is yelling in the background and, big brother is, doing something, playing video games, and I need to find, I have a big interview coming up with Google, it's so, how do I find that quiet space? What advice do you have? Like, is it okay to use my cell phone versus being in front of a computer? Does one look more professional than another? I don't have fancy backgrounds, so where do I go? Do I sit outside? Do I, go in an empty wall? Like, what advice do you tell students who are facing these kind of anxieties?
Yeah, well, I would say one, just talk to your family, right? And hopefully, you have that kind of relationship. And I definitely think it's okay to use your cell phone. What I really like about Zoom is on the cell phone, for me, virtual backgrounds work without a green screen. So you can set up a nice virtual background. If you have to go outside, I saw someone take come to a career fair in her hallway, right? And so maybe it wasn't the best option, but I think again, we just all under best we can right now. Even if, hey, your little sister jumps into the background, I think people have so much compassion, empathy in this moment that I wouldn't let those things stress you out. You want to be as prepared as possible. You want to control the things you can control, right? That's like how you look, how prepared you are, and how much research you've done, being able to talk about your skills in a way that's professional, and in being on time, right? So test whatever technology you have beforehand just to make sure that it's working and that you're able to connect. And if someone is scheduling a video call, make sure you are on video dressed for an interview.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all seen those stories of news anchors who are, get up from their seat and weren't properly dressed. So yeah, very very important. Make sure that you are dressed accordingly. Is it okay to like sit outside if you say you're in a crowded space and you don't have a good background? It's okay to do an interview outside in a quiet park or something, or is that
Yeah, if you can find a quiet space, it's not ambulances behind you and zooming cars, then it's definitely okay to do an interview outside.
That's good to know, and I think those are important points to kind of lessening the anxiety people are having around this virtual everything now. Everything is going virtual. So great, great, great. Thank you. So you have got into the space and you're working with students. You're doing most of your service virtually. What challenges have you found in both your career and your business?
So in my career, I, I would say it's just learning how to manage virtually, right? And learning how to keep that same connection with your team virtually. I work with about 4 other career counselors and assistant directors in on my campus, and we've had to implement ways to feel connected during the week. You can kind of put your head down and do your own work, but you miss that connection, right? I miss kind
Right.
of getting up from my desk and going over and chatting, or just strategizing. I think a lot of times when you're with other people, you're like, hey, what do you think of this? And someone gives you ideas. So how do you kind of create that same energy for new ideas? What was the second part of the question?
No, that's great. I'm just curious. So yeah, your business as well, because you're CEO of your own company, so you're a professional in higher ed, but you're also a business owner. So what challenges have you found, managing that as well?
Sure. So I think in managing my own business, it's being motivated but not burning myself out.
Hmm.
It's been nice. I thought 2020 was going to be the year of in-person networking, and it became the year of virtual networking. And so I started doing like a virtual career development happy hour, and that was really great to just connect to people all over the country, really, because we even had people from different schools in like Alabama coming to
Mm.
connect and talk about different career topics. So then just really staying kind of motivated because when you're working kind of a full-time job and your own job, you want to give each of them the time they deserve.
And I'm guessing those creative skills that you developed are coming in quite handy now. You're having to think about how to do things in different ways that you wouldn't have normally done. So, kind of bridging that gap, tapping into your creative side, I'm sure is you're getting your creative juices flowing a lot more now.
Yeah, definitely. I would say just How do you market different if you're not in person? How do you connect with people on a genuine level? Um, it's been a challenge. It's been interesting for me too, because I have started working, I was the fashion and marketing career counselor when I first started at Berkeley, and now I'm working with accounting and IT students. So for me, it's like I'm developing a whole different network. It's like both
Mm.
of us are now looking for jobs together. Because I can't rest on this kind of fashion network that I built in the past. And I think it's a good thing for me, because I think we should always be building our networks, right? So now I am totally expanding my network in a new industry, and I think right now for students, um, that should be one of their top priorities, especially when they're getting ready to graduate. How do they build their networks? How do they find internships and volunteer opportunities in their industries? Or even with this pandemic, it's really taught us to be flexible and say, okay, so this is what I went to school with, but what are those things like kind of adjacent to it that I can
Mm.
explore if my industry, like industry like fashion or restaurant management or hospitality, is not doing well? Well, how can I take those same skills in sales or production and use them in different industries?
That's golden. Again, talking about those transferable skills, because we often end up in different places than where we think we're gonna go, right? But you
Mhm.
never know how those skills are going to be useful in other places. But I love what you're saying about networking, because often, when I speak to young people, I talk about networking. Like, we all hear the saying, it's not what you know but who you know, right? And it's kind of cliche, but I think there's some real fact and truth to that, right? We've seen a lot of people in powerful high places, and you're like, but right, but they have great networks. And
Yeah, they have
so
that access.
that access, right? So networking is access, right? So
Mhm.
build your network. So how do you do that virtually, right? It's a little difficult now. You can't go out to networking events and socialize with people and build those personal connections. So what advice are you giving your students to network now in this virtual environment?
Yeah, so I think all of those associations that were having those in-person events, they are now switching to having them online. So how do you and I can sometimes it can be nerve-wracking to be on camera and put yourself out there even more than in person, because in person you can hide in the corner. So how do you build that confidence to kind of get out there and go
Right.
to these online events? And then how are you utilizing your social media? So one of the things we encourage all our students to do is to get on LinkedIn and have a robust profile that tells your story. And more than just being on LinkedIn and having this profile out there, how are you being active? What are you sharing? How often are you sharing? How are you connecting with people? Are you joining groups? Are you commenting? So really using social media to build your network. And it doesn't just have to be LinkedIn. It can be Twitter, it can be Instagram, but you just want to make sure that that professional presence and that brand that you're putting out there is consistent amongst all your social media sites, right? All the social media sites that you want people to find. And if they have social media sites that you don't want people to find, right, you really need to go through and clean them up and look at your privacy.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I think folks don't often realize, like, having everything online is sort of like having a billboard outside your window. Like, we are in this bubble where we think, my Facebook is my Facebook. No, you don't. You actually don't own the content that you're putting on there. Like, everything is public, and even with privacy settings, there are ways to find things on there. So, yeah, make sure that consistency. So let's talk about that a little bit, because LinkedIn is a different animal than, Facebook and Instagram and now TikTok. And so, people often saying, well, my LinkedIn is my professional, my Facebook and Instagram are my personal. And so, what I do on here doesn't affect here. But you're kind of saying, no, look at all three. Make sure that they're consistent. So how are you advising your students to take what they're putting on LinkedIn and having that same consistency in these other platforms? What does that look like?
So I think it looks like, all right, taking a look at your bio, right, and your about sections on your Twitter and on your Facebook. And first off, I would say figure out, you're thinking about what's your target industry, right? And then once you know what your target industry is, you want to say, okay, are people in my industry hanging out on these sites? If they are, then you really want to brand them and use them to market yourself. If they're not, and you want to say, is this professional? Is this something that I would want my grandmother to see, if it's the old saying, right? And if it's
Mm-hmm.
not, remove it. Once you kind of have the sites that you want to use, you want to say, okay, well then what's my like bio? What's my tagline? Am I using the same picture throughout? What's my message? What am I talking about? Do I want people to know that I'm a master in social media? Well, then I need to post tips about it. I need to post articles that are relevant, but also share my commentary about those articles. And the commentary can be different on different mediums because they're going to be different people. But you just want to think about your messaging and being active.
And so are you sharing the same content you would on LinkedIn and on Instagram, or is it similar with a twist? If you're posting something on LinkedIn, are you posting that same post on Facebook? Is it similar or different twist? Because I would imagine this is a different audience on all these different platforms.
So I think generally the best practice would be like similar with different twists. Because it can be the same article, right? But on LinkedIn, your message is different maybe than it is in this one Facebook group that you're a part of. And sometimes there can be overlap, right? I know that there's a lot of overlap between my Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And then there's some overlap between like my profile Facebook and my page for my company. And I had to make the choice too of how much of my profile am I going to use for business. So that affects too how much I share and what I share. Um, so it's about making those kind of choices, but thinking about like Google, right? First thing, that free background check. Someone's going to Google you. What are they going to see? Is what they're going to see going to make them want to call you in or kind of shy away from you?
That's golden right there. If can you find jobs? I know LinkedIn has its own little built-in job search, but is it common for people to build networks and find jobs in these other social media platforms? Can besides becoming a TikTok star, can you market yourself in a way where someone's like, wow, I want to hire that person on, and they see your TikTok video? Is that common? Does those things happen?
So I don't know about TikTok yet, but maybe, right? I definitely, people are connecting on Twitter. You think that if you're interested in being in news and media, right? All these guys are sharing articles on Twitter. They're commenting, they're having chats. So I definitely think that you can network on a lot of these places. I know for me personally, I use YouTube a lot to post content, and I'm hoping to get engagement, right? As a way to kind of start that conversation and network and find new clients.
That's great. That's so it's like, don't be shy from the different, it's kind of you're experimenting in a professional way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're putting your feelers out there. I mean, I think one of the great things about this, because most people are on some sort of social media, right? Whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, they're on some, and you can leverage all of these things as a way to build your network and to gain access into different groups. So that's fascinating, and this is all virtual, as you pointed out, right? This is still part of this virtual environment that we in, that I think it's not going anywhere, obviously, but I think it's becoming even more prevalent, right? So it's like we have to become comfortable in navigating in this virtual environment. I think one of the challenges for me, I find, right, is all trying to think of new content, right? How often are you posting? How often are you putting something up on these different sites? So if I'm a student or even a professional, young professional looking to transition careers, or I'm looking for a job, like how often am I posting an article? How often am I commenting in groups? Like, what is your recommendation? How engaged should I be? And should I be posting more professional than commenting on the cat videos on that my cousin posted up? Like, you know is there balance? Like, and where's that balance?
Yeah. Well, definitely. 'Cause I just, unless you are trying to be in veterinary services, I don't know that the cat video posting is going to be helpful. But I would say, think about your schedule, set goals for yourself. Ideally, you want to think about when people are active on these sites. Anyone who is looking for a job, I 100% recommend being on LinkedIn and kind of making that one of your main sources. When it comes to LinkedIn, you want to post once a day, Monday through Friday. But hey, say you set a goal for twice a week posting, and 5 times a week you comment or engage. Set goals that work for you, because it's everything can become so overwhelming, right? When we can't do it all. I know in my own business, right, I try to post on LinkedIn once a day. I post on my other social media sites once a day, but I also have support. I also have a team that helps me. So for us that don't have that kind of team to help us, think about all of your career goals and your strategy, and put a timeline together that works for you.
Do you have any special software that you use to, like, auto set your posts, schedule them out, like set it and forget it kind of things? Anything that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so I personally use Hootsuite. I don't know. I like it. It's the only one I've ever used, so I can't say if Hootsuite is the best. So I use Hootsuite on my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook page, but I personally will post to my LinkedIn page in real time, and I probably could be scheduling it as well, but that's just kind of, I sit on LinkedIn all day. And I don't expect everyone to do that, but being in career services, I connect to a lot of recruiters. I try to connect to my graduates and students, so I'm on LinkedIn all day, so I can kind of sit there and post when I feel like it. But you may want to schedule something, or use a scheduler, but you do want to engage in real time. So if you've scheduled it, great. But if you see people are commenting on it, come back and reply to those comments and get a conversation going.
That's important. So you got to be engaged. Just don't post, set it, and forget it, but
Yeah.
be engaged with your audience. That's perfect. And I feel like we should get a Hootsuite sponsor, right? Give them a little shout out. So if they want to sponsor this podcast session, reach out. Like, LinkedIn is super robust. It has all these features, right? Like, since the Microsoft takeover, definitely a networking powerhouse. But we have some of the more lighthearted, I say, kind of social media platforms. And you're working now with, like, Gen Z students, right? Are they comfortable working on LinkedIn? Are they more like, I want to be on TikTok and IG? I feel like even IG's for old people now, right? Like, is Gen Z on we got to get a check. We have to get a
Yeah.
fact check. Is Gen Z on IG now? I don't know. I feel like everybody's TikTok. I feel like when all the old folks go to
Yeah.
the new, that something else pops up, right? But
Yeah,
say
so I'm
I'm like
staying off of TikTok, so I won't ruin it.
but like, I'm really, like, I have a following on TikTok. Matter of fact, my wife and I was at a friend's house, and she was just saying how her son is like a TikTok star. Like, he has like over 100,000 followers or something. So, all right, I'm a student. I have over 100,000 TikTok followers. Is there a way I can leverage that into a career or a network? Like, does that go hand in hand?
I don't have any stories of it being done, but I definitely think it can be done. Those are, and it, you have to think, okay, well, is what I'm posting about my message on TikTok related to the kind of career? If you're always posting, take it back to that veterinary services, if you're known for taking care of animals and fostering, that could lead to something that could lead you to, working for a shelter, doing fundraising, something like that. So thinking about, it's about your message. So yeah, any place that you get your message out there can be a benefit to you.
That's golden advice. So let's pivot a little bit, right? I think we often think about, we're going to college. We're a young person who, or maybe not, right? Not everybody who's in college is a young person, right? Or we're going back for a second career, or we're now just at the point in our lives where we're in college. And now that we're in college, we are looking to get a career or a different start on life, right? Now, I want to speak to you as the business person, the CEO of Creatively Inspired Career Coach, because starting a business is no small feat. Like, there's a lot of work, time, blood, sweat, and tears to start in a business. And there's a lot of people out there, right? Entrepreneurship is like the hot thing now. And I love it, right? I love that we have more people thinking about like wanting to be their own bosses. And so I'm in college. I don't want to work for anybody. But maybe I don't know how to turn my skills into a business. What advice would you give that person as a business owner, as someone who works in career development, workforce development? What advice would you give for the person who says, you know what, I'm not interested in internships. I'm not interested in working for somebody for the rest of my life. I want to go and start a business, and this is what I want to do. I want to be an entrepreneur. How do I go from college to be an entrepreneur? And is it worth working for somebody to gain some skills, even if you want to be an entrepreneur?
Well, so I will say this, right? I did not go from college to being an entrepreneur because I had bills to pay, right? So I think one of the things that we have to think about is, so we want to start our own business. What does funding look like? And is it the kind of business that you need funding? Because I didn't need funding to start my own business, but I did need to be able to pay my bills and eat and pay my rent. I needed that type of funding. So thinking about, okay, what resources do you already have, right? What is your idea and your plan? And starting a business takes some time. So what is your timeline and how are you going to implement? And there are things that you can do to implement for free, like free websites and different ways of marketing. I always recommend, I didn't do an internship in college, but I always recommend doing an internship. There is, and obviously if you've been in your industry, if you have work experience, but I think there is something about learning from what is already done. Even if it's like, you know what, I have learned that is not the way I'm going to do it, right? I think that learning, that building of the network again comes from being in that world is key. Because once you start that business, you're going to need support. Everyone is. And even looking at what are the free resources and support you can get from like Small Business Association and scores, and how can you have someone, I think, really mentor you who has started a business, who can take you through those steps.
You know, that's fascinating because we also don't think about mentorship, and that's such an important piece, right, in this whole networking, starting a career, or even starting a business, finding a good mentor. So have you found a good mentor for doing what you do? And what are some key tips or golden advice you've got from your mentor or mentors, right? It could be plural, throughout your career that you would like to share with others?
Sure. So I've had the good fortune of having really good mentors as bosses throughout my career. And I've also had the fortune of having mentors on the business side and also hiring business coaches. So I worked with several business coaches to really help me put my plan in place, right? Because I was a theater major and a transpersonal psychology major. I don't know anything. I didn't know anything about business or how to run a business. I had to read the E-Myth. I had to talk to people. And so I think, that doing that research, some of the advice I would say, and it's so funny, I was just telling this piece of advice to my husband the other day. One of the things that one of my first business coaches told me was you have to ask for the meeting. And like when you're selling a service and when you're networking, you have to be the one to ask for the meeting. And I had goals, right? Of when I was networking with people and talking about their careers, if they seemed like they were unsure, I had to say, would you like to set up a complimentary call? And I have been known to be quite an introvert. And so that was hard for me to kind of break out of that shell. But the more you break out of it, I think the easier it becomes. And it's still sometimes nerve-wracking to just ask for that meeting. But I think that was one of the best pieces of advice I got when I was looking at building my business.
I love that. I love that. That's great advice. And I love that you said you had several mentors in different aspects, because I think, we all think about going to this one guru, right? And I think we're in the guru age. Everybody's trying to coach something and be a guru, and we're looking to go to that one guru who's going to teach us everything. But I think life is many steps, and you can have many different mentors who are teaching you many different things along the way. Have you found, have you had any mentoring up, right? Like someone that you are mentoring, but also received advice from, right? Like kind of that, having that mentor mentee relationship, but you learn from that mentee. Because that's something I think we often don't think about, right? And even as if I'm a younger person, I'm thinking, well, what can I share or teach someone? What do I have? What kind of life experiences? So, for a 20 something or 18-year-old who's in college and is seeking a mentor, could it be a mutual, or should it be a mutual relationship?
I for sure. I definitely in my 20s, and we're still connected, but I was in a mentorship program that was just that, you mentored each other. It just so happened that I was like in my early 20s and she was a lot older than that. I think on the other end, I think about my interns, right? I have had, I generally take interns from Berkeley College for my business to do social media. And I have had so many interns that have taught me so much, right? That have really revamped my marketing, that have kept me on track on projects. And I think that's also that ways the best kind of intern, right? They take that initiative. Oh, I have this idea. Well, boom, boom, boom. And they start doing all these things. And I really credit one of my interns, Helen Forrester, with supporting me in getting my career planning journal done. And she designed all the graphics, and so it was like I had this idea and I had this draft sitting out there, and here she was really, she made it happen. I will say. So I can definitely say credit the interns for teaching me so much, even about being a better manager. Even the bad interns teach you something. Not bad, but the not as good one.
Well, shout out to Helen. You did your thing, and I love the fact that you are bridging your business and your career, right? And take students in from your from the college that you work at and bring them in as interns to your business. That speaks to me so much. I love just being able to bridge that gap. I think that that's super important and super cool. Yeah, this is fascinating stuff. I think it's really important to kind of just get the sense of how to navigate this space that we're in, and lessen anxieties for you know for people who are looking for jobs, trying to navigate this global pandemic and all things that come with it. And then you're fresh out of school and you might have loans to pay, and it's like, well, how am I going to find a job? And I think you gave some real golden advice, super advice. Anything that we didn't touch upon that you think is just burning, like, I have to say this to the people?
I don't know what came to me in this last, when you talk about anxiety, right? It's just really looking at how are you supporting your overall mental and kind of physical health. So for me, it's yoga, but is it meditation? So thinking about when you're in this job search and in this crunch time, what are you doing? How are you taking the time out for you? And make that time out for you part of your strategy. When you're working a job search, you need that plan, right? That good career management. How many jobs are you applying to a week? How many networking connections are you making? And then how are you taking care of yourself?
Taking care of you, got to take care of yourself. Super important. What do you do to take care of yourself?
I have been obsessed lately with yoga, meditation. I listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks. So that's like my go-to when I feel like I'm off. I'll put on a Abraham Hicks video on YouTube, and that's all about like the law of attraction and kind of spirituality. Or I call my mom. That helps as well.
Calling mom always helps. Definitely always helps. Mom to the rescue. Shout out to mom.
Yeah.
I love it. Taking care of yourself is super important. Just, over the last year and a half, I've been more adamant about taking care of my physical health. And I got to tell you, so this is sidebar, yoga for any guys out there who are shying away from yoga. Yoga is the bomb. Try some yoga. It is great. Like, it just gets you centered. It gets you just, what they call it. It gets you zen, right? You're in that space. It gets you focused to be able to do the other things that you like to do. And it's not easy. Yoga is hard. First time I took yoga, I'm like, this is hard. I thought this was just a bunch of stretches. No, yoga is hard. It's challenging, but it's great. Love yoga. So yeah, that's great advice out there. Definitely got to take care of yourself, and because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't do all these other things. All right, so definitely take care of yourself. Jasmine, this is like super. I want to give you a chance to shout out your business, and I love that you're a business owner. I think entrepreneurship, particularly in Black and Brown communities, is going to be vital. And being able to be creative and starting businesses and looking at non-traditional ways to build wealth and income is going to be key for our communities in the future. So I love that you're on the cusp and you're actually actively doing it. And so I want to give you a chance to shout out your business. Tell us what Creative Inspired Career Coaching is about. Where can they find you? Your website and anything else you want to share.
Sure, thank you. So you can find Creatively Inspired Career Coaching at my name, JasmineBriggs.com. And if you go on my website now, you can download a free 2-minute meditation to do before your job interview. And so I really say that I help people love their Monday mornings. I offer career coaching, resume writing, LinkedIn profile writing, job search strategy. And really how I work with my clients is we figure out what's important to you, what are you targeting, what are you passionate about, and from there we define your personal brand, your personal genius, and build a strategy for transitioning into your dream career. I was in a place where I hated my job, and to be in a place where I now love what I do, I just think that it's so possible for everyone. So you can find me at JasmineBriggs.com, on Instagram as CI Coaching, on YouTube as Jasmine Briggs 11, the number 11, and I release job search tips and different career planning tips. I try weekly, and I'll get better. It'll be weekly soon. And I am also on Facebook, Twitter as Jasmine Briggs 1, and LinkedIn as Jasmine Briggs-Rogers. So connect to me. I love to talk about careers and just really help people feel good about where they are and take control of their careers.
Awesome. Any big events or anything that the people should know about that's coming up?
In January, I am going to be starting out my career development happy hours. So generally, they are the first Tuesday of every month. It's probably going to be the next one will not be, let's see, I don't know the date yet, but that'll be out there. And we'll get back to monthly, just networking online, talking about different career topics.
Awesome. So you heard it here. Check Jasmine out. Check her website out. Check all her social media out. If you're looking for a career coach, someone to get you going, look no further. You have found that person. The book is coming up soon, right? That's in the works?
Yes, I am doing a crowdfunding campaign for my new book, A Career Journey Within, and it's all about using spirituality to figure out where you want to take your career and manifest your career dreams.
All right, so look out for the book. You can definitely find all this information on her website, her social media pages. Search for it. Make sure you get connected with those virtual networking. Is like a virtual networking happy hour. Is it, okay. So, get your virtual networking on with Jasmine. We're going to make 2021 the year for everyone who's looking to pivot from their careers, looking to develop their careers, please check Jasmine out. Jasmine, this has been awesome. This is great. I like that you just tied all these pieces together that we normally don't think about, particularly with equity and access, because careers are super important. Businesses are super important, particularly for our communities. And this has been great. So thank you for joining me here today. I would love to have you back. And I will connect with you and check out your virtual happy hour and get my networking on myself. So I won't just talk about it, we'll be about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Thank you, Jasmine. Appreciate it. For all the listeners, for all the viewers, thank you for coming to Reaching Higher Ed's third podcast. We are so grateful for you all, and continue to check out Reaching Higher Ed at reachinghigheret.com for future updates, videos. Check out our Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Much love.